Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This episode is going to be extremely exciting, especially for me because, as you know, I shoot a bear bow, and they are dropping on the day of this episode drop. It's either going to be the day before or the day of or the day after. The new 2025 lineup from Bear Archery drops. And so I've got my buddy Dylan Ray from the Bear Archery podcast and also Typical Sportsman coming on here to talk about all the new bows that are going to be dropping and, give us as much details as he knows and basically get it out there for you guys so you can listen to this. And if you want a new bow, whether it's, you got to switch during season because something happens, God forbid, or you want to get a new bow after the season starting in 2025, you'll know what Bear is offering and you can maybe make your decision that way. So before we get into it, got to hit the partners like always. The Bow Hunting League, they have been going super strong this year. A lot of people have already got really good bucks down. I'm still working on killing Trike. Actually, at the time of recording this, I'm going to be hunting him tomorrow. He did daylight this morning, and with this hurricane that we've been having, the deer movement has been kind of crazy. And so the way that tomorrow's set up, weather-wise, it looks like it's going to be really good. So who knows, man? Maybe I'll be able to get him down and get him entered in the Bow Hunting League. If not, I'll just keep on trying. Got a really special hunt up here at the Newton County Water Authority next week. There's been some giants killed over there, some 170s with double drops. There was a 150, it was like a 156 deadhead found last year. Just a really amazing place that only people in my specific county get to hunt. And so it's a really, really awesome opportunity. Weather's going to look good. I can't wait. So Bow Hunting League, I've got some stuff hopefully coming your way. But if you guys don't know who they are, go to Bow Hunting League on Facebook, go to bowhuntingleague.com and check out everything that they have over there. They've got merchandise. You can figure out how to sign up for next year. You can follow along with, all the people that are involved this year and get to see, what's been going on with those guys. And plus keep an eye out. There is some stuff coming from Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast with the Bow Hunting League. So be on the lookout for that. Next up is going to be the Boutique. As you know, Michael Stonebreaker makes, in my opinion, the best arrow wraps on the market. The dude can literally make anything for an arrow wrap, and he will also custom build. He will custom build your arrows for you too. So go to theboutiquellc.com. Check out everything that he offers, and when you see some stuff that you want, whether it's you want some pre-made stuff or you want a custom set made, you can use the code SEBHP for free shipping. Next up is going to be Osseo Gear. As you know, I'm a huge supporter of Osseo Gear. It is by far the best camo pattern that I think I've ever used. I have been spotted from, movement because I'm like right on top of these deer. And really, it's more of just testing it out and seeing what I can get away with. And honestly, dude, I can get away with a lot. Doesn't mean you should be moving in the stand, but my Osseo Gear keeps me well hidden. And I think it'll keep you hidden too. Comparing it to other camo that I've used in the past, it just really seems to work a lot better. So go to OsseoGear.com. I know that the midweight Sherpa hoodie is back in. There is a lot of new things that Osseo's been doing. They've got a new leafy cover suit. I mean, there's so much. So go to OsseoGear.com, check out everything that they have. You see something you want, you put it in checkout. Before you check out, use this code. It is SEBH, and that saves you 15% site-wide. Next up is going to be Summit Tree Stands. Dude, my Summit Dual Threat Pro SD has really been shining this year. Comparing it to what I was using last year, it's night and day, honestly. And they cover everything for all types of hunters, whether you're a rifle hunter, a bow hunter, crossbow hunter. If you want to use a climber that has the supportive bar in the front, or you just are like me and you like the open face climbers, they got you covered. And they even have hang-ons and sticks and all the accessories that go with it. It's actually pretty amazing what Summit's able to do. So go to summitstands.com. I know a lot of y'all have been using this code. Keep on using it. It is SEBH15. Use that at checkout and it saves you 15%. Next up is going to be Scout Tech. Actually just got one of my new Scout Tech cameras out on public earlier this week. Was it this week? Yeah, it was this week. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And put it over a mock scrape that I made, spent like 2 or 3 hours scouting. Didn't really find too much. So I just went on a known deer route and put up a mock scrape, and I've been getting deer every single night, and the cameras are working amazing, honestly. As you know, they have a new camera coming out. It's getting tested right now as we speak. So give it, 3 to 4 or 5 months, something like that. They're also going to be updating the app more. They're also going to be having unlimited data finally. So really, really exciting stuff coming from Scout Tech. I'm going to try to run through these a little quick. I know Dylan's waiting on me. So next up is going to be Ace Hardware and Social Circle. Awesome bow shop, awesome people. They cover everything that you would need if you want to get new broadheads, arrows, bows, whatever. So go check those guys out. Bergie Bowsmith, probably the best bow tech that I know, has his own website now that he actually is selling more than just, him working on your bow. He actually is now a dealer for a big list of companies. So go to bergiebowsmith.com. Sorry. And check out everything on the website and use the code SEBH10 to save you 10%. I don't know why I can't talk right now, guys. I honestly think I'm just rushing through this because I'm so excited. But next up is going to be VPA. So I've got my VPA Omega with bleeders sighted in, dialed in, ready to go. If I'm able to kill trike tomorrow, that's the broadhead I'm going to use. I think I'm right now at like 475, 477 grains total arrow weight. It's like upwards of almost 20% FOC, and I've been blowing through my target. Like, they were not lying when they said that. Ryan even told me again that, dude, I've been having this happen. And I was like, oh, it's no big deal. Literally goes through my target every single time. So that broadhead will penetrate. But they have more than just that. They have over 70 different broadheads. And dude, they just make an amazing product, and it's lifetime warranty on everything they have. You cannot beat that. So go to vparchery.com, check out all the broadhead selection, everything else that they're selling, and use the code SEBH10. That saves you 10%. These next 2 or 3 are going to go really quick. So Dialed Archery. I'm using the Dialed Arxos. Best bow sight that I've ever used. It is super simple to sight in. If you guys need a new bow sight, go to dialedarchery.com and check out all the stuff that you can do with it. You can customize it. They have small batch drops for like different dials and all that. It's pretty wild. Next up is going to be Camo Dust. That is the only scent concealing or scent elimination or cover scent, whatever you want to call it. That's the only scent cover that I use. I've not gotten winded once. I have literally hunted with the wind blowing directly at the deer, and they do not know that I'm there. If you do it right, it works. If you don't do it right, you're going to get winded. So if you guys get Camo Dust and you don't really know how to do it, go back and listen to our episode with Chris. Or you can just reach out to me and I'll tell you what to do. But I trust Camo Dust just as much as I trust my camo, and I trust it just as much as I trust my bow, my broadheads, all that stuff. And last but not least, can be Typical Sportsman. As you know, Dylan Ray, the guest on this episode, he has his own website and his own Instagram, all that other stuff. Go to typicalsportsman.com. He's selling a bunch of hats, a bunch of t-shirts, stickers, all that stuff. And he gave us a code for you guys. It is Typical20. That saves you 20%. So obviously, that's all the partners. As I do every single episode before we get started with Dylan, if you don't know Jesus Christ, please, I know it kind of sounds like a broken record, right? But like, we get new listeners all the time. People don't know this about me. I am doing my best to try and get people to get to know who Jesus is. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. But, without him, none of this would be possible. And the world is going down the toilet, and we need him now more than ever. He's been blessing my life for the past 2 years since I gave it to him. And I'm telling you, dude, this podcast would not be where it's at without him, 100%. So just give it a shot, okay? Be open-minded to it. Regardless, he loves you either way. And, we need more of that in this world and a lot less of this evil stuff to be happening. We truly need Jesus right now. So, not to get all doom and gloom, but it is what it is. This is the world we live in. This is the hand we were dealt, and Jesus is the best thing in all of it, honestly. So, rant over. Very excited about this episode. I'm really looking forward to hearing about these new bows. Let's get started with Dylan Ray from Bear Archery. My buddy Dylan Ray from the Bear Archery podcast and Typical Sportsman on here. Man, first off, for those who didn't listen to your first episode, I think they need to go back and listen to it, because that was a fun one. We got to talk about all the bows that came out last year from Bear Archery. This year, they've got a whole new lineup coming up. And, you were generous enough to do this with me so I could kind of hear a little bit about the bows before they come out. This is going to obviously drop either the day of or the day after. But man, before we get into that, you just went on an elk hunt. How was that?
Dude, it was absolutely, like I tell people, it was the best week of hunting you could ever have without tagging out. That's something that's kind of hard for people to understand, but like just an absolute unreal week of hunting. Literally within the first 2 hours of being on the mountains, we had bulls screaming in our face. And the very first day I had a bull at 16 yards just screaming. And honestly, it was one of those things where the bull came in too quick and we didn't have time to set up like we should. And so I was right on the path. I knew he was going to be coming up. But again, just like the first time we heard him, he was 40 yards out. So we didn't have time to really set up and get in a situation to kill this bull. But he came into 15 yards, just dead on with me. And I was waiting for another couple steps. Even for a frontal shot, much less a broadside shot. And he never gave me those steps, and we didn't spook that bull. He just kind of turned and went on his way, and real calm, cool, and collected. And so we ended up staying on that bull for like 6 hours. And we'd move down the mountain and call to him, and he'd come back and then work out. And I think after that first time, though, I think the closest he ever got was like 60. And we never even actually saw him again. But we'd sit down for lunch, and next thing we know, he's coming back in. And I mean, it was just a crazy first day. And then day 3, I actually ended up shooting a bear. And it's always been a dream of mine to shoot a bear standing up. And that I'm played for this hunt. I was walking up the road, and we had chased this bear around a little bit, knew he was there. And so we are trying to get in on him. And anyways, we're walking up the road, and we kind of given up on this bear, thinking, he's probably moved out of the area and he's probably moved on. But so we're walking up the road, and my buddy's just like 10 feet in front of me. And he just says, "Hey, draw your bow. Here he is. Draw your bow." So I'm still below him on the hill. Like, I can't see this bear. And so I just come to full draw and walk up the hill. And I get to the hill, and he's standing up on his back legs. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, and so all this is going on in like 4 seconds. This is all going on in my head in like 4 seconds. I'm like, I've always wanted to shoot a bear standing up. But when it happens, you're like, do I shoot him in the chest, or do I wait for him to drop and then shoot him broadside? And my buddy's in my ear, like right in my ear, saying, "Smoke him right in the chest, smoke him right in the chest." And I don't even have a range on this bear. Like, I don't know how far he is. And so I just guess and put my 30-yard pin on him, and ended up being height-wise really good, just a little bit to the right. And I think I just hit that chest plate, and it just kicked right, and actually came out right behind the back, right behind the front leg. And there was just blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And so things got really Western. We were trying to track a bear down and chasing it down. And one of my buddies literally got like 10 yards from it and tried to grab it by the back legs just to kill it. And like, it was an insane situation. But he ended up making it to an area. And what the funniest part of that whole situation was, we're tracking this bear, and we kept hearing him move in front of us. And so my buddy was like, "Hey, run down the mountain and grab your bow and go to this road," because he's working towards that road. So maybe he'll just walk out and you'll get another shot at him. And he's like, "And I'm a cow call if he's coming towards you." I'm like, "All right, sounds good." Well, I guess he forgot that he told me that. And so he keeps cow calling to try to get the bear to stop, just like stop and look. And so I'm standing down in this road, and all I can see is like 15 feet in front of me, and I've got my bow ready, and I just hear cow calls. I'm like, crap, he's coming. Which way is he coming from? So I'm like spinning all around, like thinking this wounded bear's coming at me. And he keeps cow calling, and turns out this bear went up the mountain. And so they're chasing this bear up the mountain. I can't see any of this happening, but they're chasing the bear up the mountain. Like, he's literally sprinting after this bear and cow calling the whole time. And so like, I'm just like freaking out because I keep hearing cow calls. Well, my buddy comes back around, and he's covered in blood. And I'm like, "So you got him?" And he's like, "No, I didn't get him." I'm like, "How do you have blood all over you then?" He's like, "That's how bad the blood trail was, bro." Like, he's like, "That's how much that bear bled." Like, wow. I'm covered in blood just from following the trail. And I'm like, gosh, dang. And so he's like, "I saw where he went in over here." And he's like, "Honestly, like, I don't think he has any blood left in him. Like, I don't know how this bear would have any blood left. He spilled so much." And so we go over to that area, and it was an area that had just burned like 2 years ago. And so it was just like 12 foot high, just thick, nasty brush. And we tried to we made it like 10 yards in, couldn't move. Like, all the arrows were falling out of our quiver because it's so thick. And like, you pretty much just got to turn backwards and just like fall through this brush. And so we pretty much called it on the bear and got back to the elk. And then another scenario, I had a bull at 24 yards, just screaming at 24 yards. But honestly, all I could see was like skull capping up. I couldn't even see his whole head. And he ended up, he did wind us and bolted out of there. But man, you can't have a better week than that. Like we were in bulls all week long. It was honestly a weird scenario though, because we were calling in big mature bulls that should have had at least 2 or 3 cows with them. I mean, all of these bulls should have had cows at this point, and we never saw or heard a cow. Saw very, very little cow sign even. Like it was all just big mature bulls. And so it was a fun week of hunting, man. You can't ask for anything better. Had another bear at 40 yards one night, and honestly, I thought he was just going to come right in, so I didn't shoot him at 40. Never came in, but just a great week of hunting, man. You couldn't beat it if you tried.
So what state were you guys in?
Idaho.
All right. So this, I'm assuming, was a black bear, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, if you know anybody that grabs a grizzly by the back legs, that's a man right there.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
The words out of his mouth when he come back down around to me, he said, he says, so me and that bear, we shared a moment on the mountain. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we made eye contact, and it was like, we're going to go kill this bear. Cause he's like, I almost had him by the back leg, but I gassed out. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like crawling through. He's like, I'm crawling through this tunnel of brush, and I can see his butt ahead of me the whole time. He's like, and one time I just kind of lunged at him and tried to grab him, and he got away. But I'm like, dude, you're insane. And
how did he not get attacked by this bear? Like, you'd think with all the chasing and trying to grab him by the legs and stuff that he would have turned around.
I mean, again, I think he was so wounded. Like, I think he was, it wasn't just, he didn't just get an arrow in a back strap and was pissed. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he was spilling blood. Like, I don't think he physically had it in him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a crazy good week of hunting, man. And definitely the kind of week you can't ask for anything better. So.
That's wild, dude. That might be the wildest story I've heard all year.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal week for sure.
That's awesome. So how long were you there for?
We hunted for 5.5 days.
Okay, gotcha. You got any plans of going back?
Yeah, I'll do spring bear up there. I won't make it back in the fall. It's just too much of a commitment. I mean, it's a 22-hour drive. Too much of a commitment to make it back. I mean, 5.5 days of hunting turns into 8 days of being away from home. So I'll make it back this fall, but we'll be going out for spring bear up there, and then I'll head up there to elk hunt again next fall. So
heck yeah, dude. I mean, see, when you told me like 2 months ago or something like that you were going on this trip, I've never been elk hunting. Right. So I've been waiting to sort of hear the story of what happened. I saw you posted something about it on Instagram. So dude, that's insane. That's probably I've never heard of somebody trying to grab a bear by the back legs. Like, everything I was thinking of before you said that is completely out the window because I'm just so dumbfounded by that.
Yeah, that's just the Western dumb people. Western people are crazy, man.
I know.
They'll do insane stuff, and yeah.
That is crazy. So transitioning a little bit from that, first off, though, before we do, I want to say, congratulations on your awesome trip. That sounds like the trip of a lifetime. Wish you could have got a bull, but the fact you were in them, I mean, that's the hardest part is getting to them, I feel like. Again, I don't know, though, because I've never hunted them. But so your hat, that's a pretty cool hat. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about Typical Sportsman?
So honestly, really it all boils down to this, man. I've worked for Bear Archery to host their podcast for so long. And my social media handle used to be I don't even remember what it used to be anymore. Something along those same lines, but I got banned and got blocked. And so whenever I came back, I made it Typical Sportsman. And so that's kind of always been like my social media handles ever since. Or it was like Ordinary Outdoorsman or something before. Something along the same lines. But anyways, Typical Sportsman. And basically, like, I just kind of fell in love with that, with the wording of that, because I always do stupid redneck stuff and people are always like, you're just a typical redneck dude. Like, And I even said that, I'm like, you're the typical Western guy, chasing a bear down. So people say typical all the time. And then the word sportsman, like if you Google the word sportsman, it's literally defined as somebody who hunts and fishes and shoots animals as a pastime. And I'm like, that's me. Like I like to hunt and shoot stuff and fish as a pastime. And so
Yeah.
I just thought that's perfect, man. I'm just the typical guy who likes to go out and hunt and fish and shoot stuff and catch fish. And so I just decided to kind of build my own kind of brand around that. And you can see the antler on the wall there, and just kind of build that brand out. And so obviously I love typical antlers. That's why there's a typical antler in the logo. But more so than that, it's just trying to encourage people to live the lifestyle of a typical sportsman. We live in a culture that tells us to cover up who you are, and don't show up to work with face paint on and blood on your hands. But I'm the kid that'll go into the school to pick up my kids with, my camo on and blood on my boots, and everybody's freaking out, and I'm like, no worries, I just go to deer. So really that's just kind of it, man. Like, people laugh and make fun of the camo Crocs, but I'm like, hey, that's just so encouraging people, just be typical, be a typical sportsman and show off the pride of being a hunter and a fisherman and somebody who likes to hunt. So
I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, the reason I wanted to bring it up is, because I've been pushing the new website and the stuff that you've been putting out over there for like, what has it been, like a month now, I think.
Yeah.
2 weeks to a month. And, I just want people to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, what it really is. Cause, some people might be like, well, what is that? Cause they might not know, I do my best to try and, explain it in every ad, but I feel like a 5-minute explanation is better than a 30-second one,
Yeah. And there might be something in the future. Might be something coming down the works for a typical sportsman podcast. We'll see. Again,
you trying to do two?
Do what?
You trying to do two?
I don't know, man. We'll see. Again, it's kind of all new and but I just kind of felt passionate about building my own brand and going down that route. So
yeah, I get that. I totally get that. So speaking of podcasts, man, how's the Bear Archery podcast been going? I mean, I listen to it pretty regularly. I know that you've had some really, really good guests on there. Didn't you have Troy Fowler on there recently?
Yeah, I've had him on a couple times.
Okay.
He's a friend of mine. I respect him a lot. I love the fact that he's just a typical redneck, goofy, like likes to kill stuff. And honestly, well, I can say this. He plays dumb. Like he's goofy and dumb.
Yeah.
And people are like, you're just a goofball. But then when you really talk to him, you realize like you're actually really intelligent and you have a lot of this, you're not just jumping into an unbiased, goofy personality. Like you believe, why you believe what you believe, and you've tested why you believe what you believe, and the cardiovascular system on animals. Like you're not just, because I think a lot of people just look at him as like a goofball, but then when you really stop and listen to him speak, he's actually really intelligent. And so I like that. I like that somebody can be smart and still be a goofball and have fun. And so, yeah, we've had him on a couple times, just kind of talking arrow builds and bow setups and all the fun stuff he likes to get into. So,
yeah, he was on earlier this year, and because I tried doing like an arrow series, right? Because arrows is something that people argue about to the end of time, right? Arrows and broadheads, crossbows and compounds, traditional, all that stuff. Those arguments will never end. So,
right.
I was looking at doing a new build, and I wanted to hear it from a lot of different people that shoot a bunch of different setups. And when Troy came on, I had to make myself be able to stay in it because he would start talking about all the scientific stuff. And I'm just kind of like, staring at him like, this isn't sticking with me. Cause right. I'm not, I'm not going to say arrow scientist, right? But I can retain it, but I got to listen to it like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
But what's crazy is the stuff that he talks about. I mean, I actually bumped my arrow weight up just a week ago. I got some of these new broadheads from VPA. They only make them in 150 grain, so I knew I'd have to bump everything up. And I found myself opening day, I was shooting a lighter setup. Now that I'm, I think 25 or 30 grains heavier, it might not sound like a lot, but having a heavier setup and knowing like, okay, there's a better chance with this specific broadhead and this specific build, I'm going to have much better penetration than what I had a week ago. And I don't know, it just made me more confident. And I feel like what Troy's trying to do is to get people to be like, look, you know, you don't have to shoot only a super heavy arrow, use what works, but you might feel more confident. And his test results prove that. So I know
I think
you're
that's what it
shooting
comes
heavy
down
too.
to, man. You know, it's something that, I shot a light arrow with a mechanical for a long time. And it's one of those things you don't lose confidence in it until it doesn't work. And honestly, I never, a lot of those guys have that moment where they're like, yeah, screw this. I never had that moment. Like, I never hit a deer and like just it didn't open or didn't penetrate. I never had that moment. But for me, it was just like, okay, I remember going on my first Western hunt and like wanting to build a beefier, heavier arrow for elk. And I'm like, okay, well, if this is going to kill the elk more effectively, why would it not kill the whitetail more effectively? Like,
Exactly.
the whitetail's life is no less valuable than the elk. So if this is going to give me better penetration and knock down an elk faster, wouldn't it do the same on deer? Like, why would I? And so common sense just told me, like, why is it that I go to a light setup with a big mechanical broadhead for whitetails, but when I want to go on an elk hunt, I build a beefier, heavier arrow with a cut on contact broadhead? Like, that doesn't, it wasn't computing with me. And so, and honestly, like I tell people, and I told Troy, like, I don't go to the extreme heavy like Troy does. I run 500 to 515 on what would be the heavier side for some, but what would be the lighter side for others. Right there in the middle, a heavier arrow, and then I just make sure my broadheads are razor stinking sharp. And I'm shooting the day 6 broadhead right now, and I've really come to love it. I shot a single bevel for a long time. But I shot a bear a couple years ago with a single bevel, and I didn't get any blood at all because it made a perfect slit through that bear. Well, bears notoriously don't bleed well anyways, contrary to the story I just told you, but bears don't bleed well anyways. And so when you just have a single perfect slit, there's so much fat and hair and layers to stop that bleeding. And so I wanted something to disrupt the bleeding or to disrupt that perfect slit. And so I decided I needed bleeders. And honestly, I didn't find a single bevel with bleeders that I liked. Now, I think Iron Will has one that I would really enjoy. Their single bevel with also has a single bevel bleeder. I think it's a beautiful design. I'm kind of stuck on day 6 now. But day 6 is a double bevel with bleeders, and like I said, I mean, that bear spoke for itself because I've never seen a bear bleed like that before. And he just spilt blood. Now, I've also never shot one in the chest. I mean, so that was my first thought of like, well, we should have good blood because it's on the bottom. Like, it's just going to run out. There's no, it's not, there's not as many layers to crisscross.
Just letting gravity do its job.
Yeah, gravity's going to pull it down. So, I mean, maybe that has something to do with it, but I also know that I saw it just pouring blood. And so that's what I know.
If you want to try it, if you're open to it, because I know you said single bevel with bleeders, VPA that's what I'm shooting now is a single bevel with bleeders from VPA. And dude, I haven't shot a deer with it yet. Hopefully I'll get the chance to tomorrow, but shooting it into my target, this is like a brand new target and it's blowing through it. So if you want to try something else that, I mean, obviously Day 6 is a great company. Their stuff is awesome. But if you want to give a shot at a single bevel with bleeders, there's another option for you other than like the Iron Wills, which are awesome too. It's interesting though that, so you shot a single bevel and it was a perfect slit. There was no rotation with that.
So, but what I mean by that is even through all right. Sorry, Troy. Like, don't listen to this and get mad at me. I don't buy into the thought that, okay, I shouldn't say I don't buy into it. I believe that single bevels rotate through an animal. I don't believe it's more than a quarter turn. Where single bevels get their benefit, in my opinion, is the bone breaching ability. To where, if it hits, it can continue to just crack through that bone. But I think it has to have, in my opinion, like what I've seen is I think it has to hit something hard for it to really use that breaching ability and crack through what it's hitting. I think if you're just hitting soft tissue, I mean, again, I think you get like a quarter rotation, and I think it rotates through there a little bit, but I just don't think that it's not spinning through the animal and creating a hole.
Yeah, like people think it is, which I've seen. I shot a doe last year with a single bevel and had that exact same thing. where I'm expecting to see like the S cut, and it really was just a slit, which, I mean, she died either way, but I kind of get what you're saying, because I was shocked. I really expected it to be more of like a rotating cut than just sort of, like you said, like a quarter turn or a half turn or whatever.
Yeah.
So now, didn't
Um,
you have one of the guys from day 6 on your podcast to talk about this?
I did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Brian, the owner, and kind of that was when I was going through all these kind of questions in my mind of like,
Mhm.
because again, I value what Troy says, and I like Troy a lot, but again, there was just some like common sense questions going on in my mind where I'm like, okay, maybe it's a double bevel I want to go with. And here's where the conversation really changed for me, because we hang our hats on the fact that, or I'm sorry, single bevel guys hang their hats on the fact that it continues to rotate
Mhm.
through the animal. Well, I
Mhm.
had a guy tell me one time he was sending me a pack of single bevels, and I was on my way to a hunt, so he was just shipping these straight to the hunt, and I'm like, and he said, I'm out of left bevels, and I was shooting a left helical, so I'm going to send you right bevels, and I'm like, okay, hold on, like that's when I really started to think. I'm like, if we really buy into the fact that they rotate through the animal, then why are you sending me the opposite bevel? Because if my arrow is spinning to the left, I don't want it to hit the animal and then have to force itself to start spinning
Yeah,
right. It's going to take
it
all the
would
momentum.
mess everything up.
And the guy was like, oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. And this guy that I'm talking about, I respect immensely. Like, I think he is one of the most brilliant guys ever. One of the best recurve instructors in the world. If you know anything about recurves, you probably know what I'm talking about at this point. But
No idea.
just an incredible dude. But still in my mind, and I'm not saying he's the one that caused that issue, but I'm just thinking like, okay, well, single bevel guys hang their hat on that. So if you're saying that goes out the window, either it matters a lot or they actually don't spend that much through an animal.
Yeah.
And so I just started thinking about all that. And then I heard Remy Warren one time say it's easier to push a nail into wood than it takes less energy to push a nail into wood than it takes to screw a screwdriver into wood.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, there's a lot of truth to that too. Like, is it taking less energy for a double bevel, which would be a nail, to just go through, or is it taking more energy for a single bevel to screw through? And so I had Brian on, and just we talked about all this. We talked about different shapes, different designs, different layouts. And honestly, man, I shot the day 6, and they were flying like absolute darts, and so that's what I went with. I don't know. Well, I guess I haven't killed anything with them. I mean, I killed the bear, but I didn't recover it to see anything. Yeah, I don't think I've killed anything with it. But I'll be shooting it out of my recurve.
What you guys were talking about, though, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I have to bring this up. What y'all talked about when it comes down to like comparing a single bevel to a double bevel, because when I listened to that episode, as soon as I was done, I called 2 of my buddies and I was like, guys, because they're they know things obviously about broadheads and all this other stuff. They both shoot mechanicals. So I was like, look, you remember how I was talking about all this single bevel stuff? Like it's the best, it does this, it does that. Listen to what I just listened to. And it made perfect sense to them, just like it made perfect sense to me. When you've got the double bevel, it's the same idea. It's just a better cutting surface. It's like an added cutting surface. There's less, in a sense, resistance. And I've seen this firsthand. There's better blade retention, because when I shot my single bevel last year, I had to sharpen it. Not that it's bad or anything like that. It's just that's just how they are. And so you actually got my wheels turning in my head at that time. I just didn't want to go down the heavier route, and everything that I can use from VPA double bevel wise. If I wanted to use, because I was shooting 125 grain points at the time, if I wanted to stick with the weight I was at and shoot a double bevel, it would have been vented, and I'm not a big fan of vented broadheads. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I can either go up to 150 or I just shoot the single bevel and see what happens. So to your point, I'm kind of thinking that, obviously the Omega with bleeders is going to be good. Single bevel with bleeders, I think it should be fine, right? But I do kind of want to try the double bevel that they make too, just to see what the penetration is like. because it just makes more sense when you've got two sharp sides that it's not fighting. There is no energy dump when it turns. Like, because wouldn't you agree that when when the arrow and broadhead are both having to turn through the animal, doesn't that expel more energy than just cutting straight through it?
Again, that's what that's what common sense would tell me. I mean, again, think about if you had a screwdriver in your hand, think about how much energy it takes to screw a screw into a piece of wood versus how much energy it takes to push, a nail into the wood. So again, just common sense tells me all this. I'll tell you this. Here's what I believe. I believe that shooting a single bevel or a double bevel, I still think you have an advantage over mechanicals. There's mechanicals that I love. There's mechanicals that I would 100% believe in to shoot animals with. I just am of the opinion, like, take out as many variables as you can, have a razor sharp broadhead, and shoot that. So whether that razor sharp broadhead is a single bevel, a double bevel, a single bevel with bleeders, a double bevel with bleeders, a 3-blade, I don't care. Just shoot something that this thing's razor sharp. This thing's razor sharp, and it's gonna cut when it hits. And that, to me, like my wife, she shoots 47 pounds, 26 inches, and she's blowing through does. Kansas does that weigh, 180 pounds, 200 pounds. So every bit as big of a body as, the bucks that some people shoot. And she's getting past hers, but she's shooting a 450 grain arrow with a cut on contact broadhead. So that's what it is for me. And if I look at it and say, okay, well, this is what's going to work best for my wife's low poundage bow, why would it not work best for my bow, even at higher poundage? And that's, again, that question was raised to me. I'm like, okay, why is it that recurve shooters shoot heavier arrows and bigger cut on contact broadheads? Why is it that that's going to work better for a less efficient setup than it would for a more efficient setup? Well, the answer is it's going to work better for a more efficient setup. Same way. Like, if that's going to shoot better on a stick and string, it's going to shoot better on a machined bow with cams and that's producing more energy.
Yeah, it sounds like you and I got to the same conclusion, because I've had the same thoughts. And the one thing that Josh Jones has said, that Troy has said, that a lot of people that I've talked to about this have said, is the most important thing, or, well, maybe not the most important thing, but one of the most important things on your arrow is the broadhead. If you're shooting a crappy Walmart broadhead that's not sharp, you're going to have issues. But if you've got a super sharp broadhead, you can be shooting, like how you were saying your wife does, 46 pounds, 26 inches. Was it 46? 47? 40. Okay. So low poundage with short draw and a mid-range weight arrow with a sharp broadhead blowing through 200-pound does. That's a big buck here in Georgia. So, if that works, just take that same setup, put it on our bows that, I'm shooting 27.5-inch draw at 70 pounds. Dude, it's going to blow straight through that thing and probably bounce off a rock and go into the next county. Like, why not? So, Well, look, speaking of bows, before we get into the new 2025 lineup, I do have a question for you. And it's kind of a personal question. So, are you still shooting the Whitetail Max?
I'm already shooting one of the new 2025s.
Okay. Well, I'm jealous then. That's awesome.
I will tell you, and this will be the first bow that we're going to talk about anyway, so I'm not going to drop any kind of bombs. I'm shooting a Whitetail INT, which is a Whitetail Max, but it has integrate in it. So you get it's the same bow as the Whitetail Max, but you get integrated rest, you get integrated sight mounts. But other than that, it's the same bow. I fell in love with the Whitetail Max. I think that it shot better than the Persist in every way. I had a Persist and I had a Max. Spent a lot of time with both of them. And I honestly would say, like, I would 100% choose the Max over the Persist every time. And that's not just because it's cheaper, because I owned both and I still chose the Whitetail Max. The only thing, like I told people, I'm like, the only thing you're getting with the Persist is integrate. So when I was even told the name, when they said it's a Whitetail INT, I'm like, please tell me it's a Whitetail Max with integration. So that's exactly what it is. So that, here, I'll just grab it real quick.
Okay. I just want you to know I called it. I knew this was going to be one of the things that they did.
So that is 100%. It's just a Whitetail Max, but it has integrate on it. So it's the Whitetail INT.
Beautiful.
Again, same bow as the Max, but you get integrate. So my setup for the year, I'm running the Versalite quiver in shorty mode, attached directly to the riser. I've got a Swift Duo on here, and again, it's got the pick mount, so it's directly mounted to the riser. I took my rest off because I'm doing some experimenting with something, but I'm shooting a Propel IMS rest, which was my favorite rest of all time that Trophy Ridge came out with. So it's going on this bow, but I'm just trying to do some stuff with it to see, trying to make something work with it. But that's what's on this bow, and then a Hitman stabilizer. I just take off all the rubber stuff because it's stupid. So yeah, that's my setup for the year. That's the bow I'm shooting. So essentially, yes, I'm still shooting a Whitetail Max. Difference is this one has integrate in it.
So the reason I asked you that, which thank you for showing us that bow, because that is awesome. I gotta say this, and I'll say this before I ask you the actual question, but when I was getting my Whitetail Max, because that's what I'm shooting, I shot the Whitetail Max, the Alaskan XT, and the Persist, because I couldn't figure out which one I wanted to get. And really, I wasn't looking to get the Persist. I just wanted to shoot it because, my buddy that was at the shop had his. And he was like, oh, yeah, man, go shoot that one. So I shot all three of those. And the fact that Bear is able to make a bow that is honestly half the price, and it's not all about price, obviously, but a bow that shoots just as good as the flagship for half the price is nuts. And the one thing, my buddies got mad at me. So, and I'm not throwing them under the bus here, but you remember all the hype that was around Matthews Lift when it came out?
Yes.
Okay. So I spent probably 4 or 5 months avoiding that bow because in my mind, I was like, dude, I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to want to buy it. My wife's going to divorce me because of how expensive it is. It's going to be a terrible situation, right? Well, I got the Max. The same day that I got the Max set up, I went and shot a lift. And I looked at my buddy that shoots a lift and I said, dude, I was like, I think you wasted your money. Honestly. I'm like, I feel like my bow shoots better and it's half the price. And so whatever Bear is doing with these new bows is absolutely insane. The thing I wanted to ask you about though is on the Whitetail Max, it's got those EKO cams.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can do all that stuff at home, and I found the chart. I've got the chart saved in my phone. I set up my draw length, my let off, all that stuff. The one thing I did notice is on the cam module, one of them, when I set it to my number, I can't get it to go directly on the number. It's a little bit like the little tick on the module is a little bit between.
Yeah.
So I'm on 4, right? I'm on 4. One is on 4. One of the other modules is between 4 and 4 1/4. If I wanted to choose, or if I wanted to go to 80% let off instead of 85, what do you think I'd have to move the module that's further a little past 4 back down between 3 3/4 to 4? Or do you think I'd be okay?
I would have to look at the chart because I know at some points there is. So you said you're a 27-inch draw?
Yeah.
So I know at some points it's like, okay, if you're a 27-inch draw, then you can go from 85 to 90 with just changing the string stop.
Yeah.
But if you want to go from 75 to 80, you have to change the mod. So I don't know if that change would be a mod change or just a string stop change.
Okay.
Without looking at an actual chart to know where that falls in line at. But what I can tell you on that, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, you got to remember, these are all machined right here in the United States of America. And they're machining some really tiny ticks on there. And so, I'm looking at this one and it's a tiny bit off too. It's probably more so towards one mark than the other, but it's a tiny bit off the mark. And I don't worry about it too much. I mean, I put it on a draw board, and if it's in time, then run it, Okay. But yeah, I don't know without looking at a string chart, because it might just be that, I mean, if you look, so what I mean by string stop rotating, sometimes it'll say if you want 85, you put it towards the plus sign. If you want 80, If you want 90, you put it towards the minus sign.
Yeah.
So it might literally be just rotating that around and flipping it the other direction. I would just have to look at the string chart to know what change that would be.
Okay. I just figured I'd ask you because, you're shooting, or you're basically still shooting the same bow that I am. So playing with it. And it's not like, 85% is bad. It's just I've been listening to a lot of, what Josh Bomar's been talking about as far as like let off and all that other stuff. And I do kind of miss being like, if I'm at full draw and I have to let down, I have to almost like push it forward to get it to go back. And while I love how it feels when I'm at full draw, because there's like literally no effort holding it back, I kind of don't really like the jerky motion I have to make in case there is a deer in front of me and I can't get a shot off. So I'm thinking about playing with it. I mean, it's good for the season, but I'll be tinkering with it after.
So I will say I pretty much always like 80 to 85.
Yeah.
And here's why. If you go too high in your let off, I mean, if you shoot a 90% let off bow, you're so relaxed at your shot that I don't personally execute a good shot.
Yeah.
And I've even heard that said about limb stops. I've heard people say I don't shoot limb stops because I don't execute a good shot. I'm actually trying that for the first time this year. I don't have limb stops in because I was talking to a buddy and who's a very, very accomplished shooter, and he's like, "Don't shoot limb stops. It's the death of a good shot." And I said, I was asking him what he meant, and what he meant was without the limb stops, he's got enough play right there to really pull into that back wall and break that shot loose.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've noticed much of a difference there, if I'm being honest. But I will say when I drop my let off, I definitely pull through the back wall better. I'm not as relaxed in the shot, and I don't just break loose. I'm more pulled into the back wall, and I execute a better shot with a lesser draw pound with a lesser let off. So
yeah,
I would definitely experiment at 80. I don't think 85 is bad. My whitetail max last year was set at 85, and I really liked the way that bow was shooting. This one I have set at 80 without limb stops. Just playing with it, seeing what feels the best. But yeah, I would definitely play with it. But I would definitely tell people like too high of a let off can be the detriment to a good shot. For that reason, you just get too relaxed in the back wall, and you're not pulling into that back wall enough, and you don't execute a good shot. So
okay, well, I always play around with my stuff anyways, just during season, especially when I've got my target buck showing up right now. I'm not touching it. I'm not changing a single thing. All right, cool. So let's get into the 2025 lineup. Obviously, you just showed us the whitetail. What was it again? INT?
Whitetail INT. Yep.
Okay.
So Bear launched 9 new bows this year. I also never noticed my camera could do that. I don't know if you saw that, but it's following me around.
It does. I've been seeing it the whole time.
Sketchy, bro. Sketchy.
I'm like, dang, okay. He's got that automatic zoom.
Well, honestly, that's kind of why I asked you before we started recording, I asked him if he did video, because usually I have a studio camera and a studio mic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just completely disassembled from my hunt because I took it with me. And so I was like, crap, I don't have my studio set up. So I'm actually just on my iPad rather than my normal setup.
It's no problem, dude.
9 new bows this year. And before people comment, my favorite comment when I do these episodes is like, this dude didn't even know anything about the bows. I'm like, you're right. That's the only bow I've shot from the 2025 lineup. So while I can give you specs and while I can tell you what's different on the bows and what's new on the bows, I have not played with them. I can't give you what I like about them and what I don't like about them. I can tell you what I like and don't like about specs. And I can tell you what I don't like about what's changed and what hasn't. But before the keyboard warriors come and say I don't know the lineup, I don't. That's the only one I've shot. I haven't been to the Bear headquarters to shoot the other ones yet. So that's the only bow I've shot. So the whitetail INT, before we move on, specs are the same, but just to recap, 339 feet per second, 31-inch axle to axle, 6.5-inch brace height. Comes in draw weights from 45 to 60 or from 55 to 70. Draw lengths is 26 to 30. And then 75, 80%, 85%, or 90% let off because it is that EKO cam. So a phenomenal bow that comes ready to hunt with the integrated sights and rests. You can get that as a package with integrated rests and sights. which in my opinion is so cool because I can't believe that a company is offering ready to hunt packages with integrated accessories. That's just so cool to me. That's coming in. I don't think any new color waves. You got olive stone, black with mossy oak bottomland, black with veil whitetail, and then the throwback green and Fredbeard camo. So I don't think any new colorways on that. One of the bows that I'm most excited about, which again I haven't got to shoot it, so I can't tell you what I think about it yet. But it is the Legend 30. I absolutely loved the Legend XR. So my wife shoots. She shoots that bow, and it's honestly one of those bows that like every time a friend is over, I'm like, dude, just shoot this bow. Like I know it's at 26 inches, but I'll crank it down for you. That way you're actually shooting 70. And I'm like, just see how well this bow shoots. It's just a bow that has found its way into my heart. And so the Legend 30 is a bow that I'm really excited about. You've got a 30-inch axle to axle, which I think fits a lot of guys really well. And if you like a longer axle to axle, I've got something coming for you in just a second. But 320 feet per second, 30-inch axle to axle, 6.5-inch brace height, 14 to 70 pounds. So it's going to fit a whole bunch of people. And that's why I really like it for my wife, because it goes down to 18 inches to 31 inches. So this will be the bow that she graduates to. From the Legend XR, because again, it's got a really, really good amount of draw length adjustment and draw weight adjustment. So teenagers can shoot this, adults can shoot this, and it's going to be a really well performing bow, especially for $530. It's one of those bows that you just can't beat. It's also got integrate in it, so just a lot of really good features in a budget line bow. That comes in the same color options as the Whitetail INT. The bow that the guys at Bear are most excited about. So one of the most sold bows in Bear history is the Legit. This year, we are coming out with what is called the Legit Max. So it's going to be a revamp of the Legit. Now, again, a lot of these bows that we're coming out with and kind of the conclusion that I came up with is, no, they're not all brand new remake bows that you've never heard of, seen before, or been around. But every bow that's in their lineup this year, they've improved on and touched on. So from the Legit all the way up to the Persist, they've been touched, they've been improved on, and they've been made better. So with the Legit Max, you're getting integrate on the Legit bow, which is, in my opinion, is really, really good. And here's why. Because a lot of younger people shoot a Legit, a lot of older people shoot a Legit too. That's not what I'm saying, but a lot of younger people shoot a Legit. And the more in line you can get those accessories, the easier it's going to balance for those kids. And so I think it's just really cool that they saw a bow that, that bow only MSRP's Bear bow for $479. And then I mean, you're looking at a bow that sells for $479, and Bear still saw fit to improve on that bow and give it integrate. That
says a lot. Yeah,
it says a whole lot. So that bow is gonna have an IBO of 315, 30-inch axle to axle, 30-inch axle to axle, 6.25-inch brace height, which is going to be really good for a lot of people. 10 pounds to 70 pounds on the draw weight, and 14 to 30 on the draw length, 75% let off. That's going to just fit anybody. The ready to hunt package comes with an integrated 4-pin sight, an integrated V biscuit, a 5-arrow quiver, a stabilizer and sling, a peep, and a D loop. So again, they're taking a bow that a lot of people shoot, a lot of people buy. Again, it's one of the most sold bows ever for Bear, and they took it and improved on it for a bow that cost $479. So good job to Bear on that. One bow that I know a lot of people are going to be so stoked about. The Species is like, everyone loved the Species. I don't know why. I'm not a single cam guy, but everyone absolutely loved the Species. I've heard so many people do, like on TikTok, like best Bear bows in history, and the Species is always up there. People love the Species. So this year they came out with the Species XT. So you've got a single cam bow with integrate technology. And this is going to come in 3 different packages. You've got I'm sorry, I guess you can't buy a Bear bow. So it's coming ready to hunt and then ready to hunt extra, where you're going to get. So let me just go over the specs first. 320 feet per second, 30-inch axle to axle, 6 3/4-inch brace height, 45 to 60 or 55 to 70 pounds, 23.5-inch to 30.5-inch draw at 80% let off. Now, here's what I think Bear is doing really cool with the ready to hunt extra packages, because you get a lot of guys that, a lot of guys call me like, I want my first bow. I'm like, cool. I can get you a ready to hunt package for $450. And like, what do I need anything else? And I'm like, well, you're going to still need arrows. You're going to still need a release. You're going to still need broadheads. You're going to still need these things. And they're like, okay, so that's another $200 that I wasn't, planning on. And so Bear came out a couple years ago, I think, for the first time with the Ready to Hunt Extra. So the Ready to Hunt package comes with a 4-pin sight, the V-biscuit, the arrows, stabilizers, D-loop, all the stuff from before. But when you get a Ready to Hunt Extra package, it's also going to come with a release. It's going to come with a stabilizer and sling. No, I'm sorry. It already comes with that. But you're also going to get 5 arrows, 5 Trophy Ridge arrows, and 100-grain field tips. So quite literally, in that package is everything out of the box. You can tell somebody one price. This is everything that you need to start shooting. Here's the exact dollar amount, and you're ready to go out in your backyard and shoot. You don't have to buy anything else. Now, if you want to hunt, we're still going to have to buy broadheads. But this comes with everything that you need to start shooting right now. And so I think that's just really cool for people who, they don't know what kind of arrows to buy. They don't know what kind of field tips to buy. They look and they're like, all right, what are all the different sizes of field tips? I'm like, okay, it really doesn't matter. Just don't get one bigger than your arrow. Yeah. But they look at all this and they're still kind of in the weeds on what do I need to buy for arrows, what do I need to buy for field tips. So the Ready to Hunt package is just really cool in my opinion, because it gives you $1 amount. Everything's coming out of the box. You're ready to go in the backyard and shoot. So that's coming in that Ready to Hunt Extra package. They also redid, which I think I might have one. No, I don't have one in here. So the Cruiser G3 was, again, a great bow for kids. One of my kids, that's what I thought I had laying around. One of my kids had a Cruiser G3. Loved that bow. It's a cool looking bow. I've always kind of said, like, kids don't want cheap, junky looking bows. Like, when I got my son this, he was a little disappointed, because he's like, wait a second, this isn't a real bow. And I'm like, yeah, it is, buddy. Like, it's a real bow. You're 3 years old. Like, this is all you can shoot. But still, like, he looks at this and he's like, well, wait a second, this doesn't look like Dad's,
Yeah.
This isn't cool like Dad's. And so when he got to graduate to something like the Royale, at least it's a cool looking bow that looks like Dad's. Like, it looks like
cams, got the quiver, got the sight.
Yeah, it's not a goofy looking bow. It's got a cool looking riser. It's Dad's bow, if you will. And I think the Cruiser G3 was really good for that. It's a good looking bow that kids can shoot, that anybody can shoot, but it's picture perfect for kids.
Yeah.
Because it's so light and maneuverable and kids can handle it well. So they redid it and came out with a Cruiser G4. So again, you're going to get integrate on that. You're going to get 315 IBO.
Wait. Did you just say that they've made basically a bow for kids that has integrate?
I said that.
That's wild.
You might have to edit that, because now that I'm looking, I don't believe it has integrate.
Okay, I was going to say, like, that. I mean, and that's an idea for Bear. Either way, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I can't tell from the pictures. It doesn't look like it has integrate. So maybe I was wrong.
So Bear out here spoiling everybody this year.
Yeah. On that G4, you're going to get 315 feet per second, 29-inch axle to axle, 6 1/4-inch brace height, 10 to 70 pounds, 14 to 30 inches, and a 75% let off. That comes ready to hunt with all the accessories from above. So again, great bow for kids. It's light, it's small, it's maneuverable. Anybody can shoot the Cruiser. So with that, we go into the Persist. The Persist was redone. A lot of people saw the Persist and they wanted a longer version of the Persist. And so this year we have a Persist 33. 32 to 33 is my favorite axle to axle, bar none, period. I think you get enough of the stability and enough of the shootability out of that without just going, way too long to be able to maneuver through the woods. So I was really excited to see the Persist 33, mainly because I never really bought into the 30 inches on the Persist. Just honestly didn't like the way that bow shot, which is maybe why I like the whitetail a little bit better. You got 31 rather than 30. But the Persist 33, the Persist 33 is going to have all the same cool technologies that the Persist had. Honestly, I don't know that my Persist is in here. Honestly, that plastic shelf they put on the Persist was absolutely brilliant. I don't know why every bow company in the world doesn't do that. Because I always take bows, and once I get my rest on, see this moleskin all right here to make it quieter.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly don't know. Like when Bear did that, I'm like, why does everybody and their cousin not make bows like this? Because this is brilliant. So it's still got that plastic sleeve, if you will, over the shelf. Still got integrate, still got your pull-up loop for your to hoist it up. But you're getting 33-inch axle to axle. You got a 340 feet per second IBO, 6.25-inch brace height, 45 to 60, 55 to 70 on the poundage. And then for draw links, you got 26 and a way to 30 and a half. 75, 80, 85, 90% let off because it is the EKO cam. So I do think that I will like this Persist a little better than I liked last year's Persist.
Yeah.
However, and that's a hard question I get a lot of. If I have a Persist, is it worth upgrading? Probably not. To get 3 more inches out of an axle to axle, it's probably not worth it. And that's something that, I just tell people a lot. Probably not worth the upgrade. However, the next bow that I want to talk about, which it's already been released, you've already seen it, came out earlier in the year. This is 100% a bow that if you had the old Adapt, the Adapt 2 is 100% worth the upgrade. I got that question so much when the Plus came out.
Yeah.
I've already got the Adapt. Is the Adapt Plus worth the upgrade? And I said no. However, whether you have the Adapt or the Adapt Plus, I think the Adapt 2 is worth the upgrade. Because here's basically what you get. You get this dope little riser that comes on the Whitetail Max, that caged riser. It's going to give you a really stiff, really stable riser. You get this same riser that's on the Max, but it's coming in the single cam Adapt. The bow is butter smooth. The bow is I have shot that bow, but again, that's not necessarily new to today. But
yeah,
it's new for 25, not new today. And the Adapt 2 is an incredible, incredible bow. So I would just say, most people have already heard about it and seen about it since, the hunting public's already done a crap ton of videos over it. But I do want to cover this. The Ready to Hunt Plus package is a package that Bear offered on this bow. And honestly, I think they're losing money. I don't know how they're not. So with the bow, with the Ready to Hunt Plus package, you get the bow, which Bear bow only is $500. So just keep that in mind.
Crazy.
$500 for the Bear bow. With the Ready to Hunt Plus, here's what you get. You get an integrated Swift Duo sight, which is exactly what I'm shooting. Integrated Swift Duo. That's like a $250 sight by itself.
Yep.
You get an integrated VMAX. You get a Versalite quiver. So the best quiver that Trophy Rich has ever made. You get the Versalite quiver. If your quiver don't do that, get a new quiver. That's all I'm telling you. It comes with the Versalite quiver. It comes with the Swift Duo, the VMAX integrate. It comes with a Hitman stabilizer and quick disconnect, and then your peep sight and your D-loop. I honestly, I don't know how Bear's not losing money on that package.
Probably because they know it's going to sell like crazy.
I think it already has. I think it's already just went absolutely insane. They only offer 2 or 3 colors in that. Full Bossy Oak Bottomland. Everything's better in Bottomland. You might as well get it in Bottomland. It comes in the Throwback Green, which is the olive and the Fredbear camo, and then the black with True Timber Strata. So that's just an incredible – the bow itself is really cool. But for me, that package, the Ready to Hunt Plus, is like mind-blowing insane. Because if I was going to build something and I could pick any accessory I wanted to put on that bow, that's the exact package I would build. Well, I would put a a Propel IMS on it rather than the VMAX. But other than that, literally that I changed the rest. But other than that, that's the same accessories that I chose for my bow. So really cool offering from Bear. And then, of course, again, not new to today, but new for the year. We've got the Gamekeeper and the Gamekeeper Junior, which is a collaboration between the Mossy Oak Gamekeepers and Bear Archery. I haven't shot this bow, but I have heard absolutely the Mossy Oak crew is just raving about it. You got a 330 feet per second IBO, 30-inch axle to axle, 6.5-inch brace height, 45 to 60 or 55 to 70, and then 27 inches to 32 inches with an 80% let off. And then the Gamekeeper Junior, again, for those kids that want to have a bow just like Dad's, looks just like Dad's. However, you're getting 290 feet per second, 27-inch axle to axle, which is a brilliant length for kids. 6-inch brace height, 5 pounds to 50 pounds. So I can literally get a 4-year-old shooting that bow.
Wow.
5 pounds to 50 pounds, 12 inches to 27 inches, and a 75% let off. And it just, again, it looks really cool, just like Dad's. The coolest thing, in my opinion, is you're getting a bottom lane quiver with both of those. So the only way you can get the bottom lane quiver is with those packages, and it comes to match the bow. So 9 new bows, lots of exciting stuff. And yeah, I would just say Bear absolutely crushed the catalog this year.
Yeah, dude, that's my favorite thing about Bear is like, and I've said this before, I'm pretty sure I said this on your first episode, but they cover everybody from kids to guys that make it out to Alaska and Africa and all that stuff. Like that makes me respect them so much that they care to make something. And the thing is too, like you were saying about the Cruiser G4, if you've got a guy out there who is really, really balling on a budget, like really is not able to get even the Whitetail Max or the Whitetail INT or the Persist or any of that, he could still get a bow that is good enough to kill something with, and he could still go hunt for as low of a price as possible. And I mean that just, I love that Bear does that. The one thing I am curious though is, do you have any idea why they aren't making another Alaskan model this year?
Honestly, I think the XT just did so well. It's staying in the lineup. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's staying in the lineup. Again, I think that bow just did so well, and it already had the integrate. So it was kind of the first testing of the waters, if you will, for a mid-level bow that had integrate, and I think it did so well. And I said this on the Bow Hunter Planet podcast. Last year, the 2 best budget buy bows were the Whitetail Max or the Alaskan XT. The only reason I would have went with the Alaskan XT is if you wanted integrate. Mm-hmm. The only reason I would go with the Max is if you wanted the EKO cam.
Yep.
So honestly, I think the XT was just already right where they wanted it. It's staying in the lineup because it was such a great bow. It's already a mid-level bow that offered integrate. So they didn't change anything about it because it was just such a good bow.
Yeah. What ain't broke, or what's that old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild, dude. So I have to be honest about something. When that, and this is just me, I'm picky about stuff like this, but when the Adapt 2 first got, I guess, dropped, and I hadn't seen the specs and I hadn't seen anything on it, I knew the Adapt was a really good bow. I had one thing that I really hoped Bear would do, and they didn't do it. And that is, you remember the Paradox, right?
Yes.
Okay, so last time you were on, I was shooting that bow, and it had a 330 IBO as a single cam. Do you have any reason, other than speed's not as important as a lot of people might think it is, that when they built the Adapt 2, they didn't get it back up to 330?
Honestly,
that was my only gripe with that bow.
Honestly, I think it has to do with, the hunting public had a lot to do with the development of that bow, and they could care less about speed. They want something that's going to be butter smooth to draw, that you can draw in any kind of scenario, in any kind of situation, and that's what they got out of it. So I just think for them, as they built it, they never even mentioned speed. They never even brought it up, never even, they just wanted something butter smooth and easy to draw.
Yeah.
So they got.
Well, and I use that bow a lot in arguments, like when, I'm talking to my buddies or someone's on the podcast and they're like, oh, speed is everything. And it's like, well, is it though? Because look at the hunting public. They're shooting a 320 IBO bow. And I think Jake just earlier this year, or it was either earlier this year or just at the beginning of season, killed a beautiful buck at like 47 yards. And he had no problem with speed. So I don't know. I know a year ago I was looking at bows that, like with the Whitetail Max is 339 and I love that. I mean, shooting that thing through the chronograph the first time and seeing like 280 and I was like, "Oh, so this is what it feels like," cuz I'd never seen that. It was cool, but now I'm kind of like, okay, well speed really doesn't matter as much as I thought, right? So I
Yeah.
just figured I'd ask you about it cuz it to me would I feel like speed is still something people look for. Like a lot of people, the general hunting community looks at it like, oh, this bow is only 310, but the bow could, be extremely comfortable and could be a great shooting bow for you, but they don't even go shoot it because it's rated so low, you know?
Right.
And I don't know. I just had assumed that I guess they would try to bump it up some to, have more marketing towards that end. But you are right. I mean, the hunting public, they don't care about speed. None of them do. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I think that was part of the deal. They said what they wanted to get out of the bow and they got it. I mean, it's butter smooth to draw. It's one of those bows that you double check because you feel like you're drawing it. You feel like even when you're drawing it at 70, you're drawing, 49 pounds. It's just so smooth to draw and such a joy to shoot. So I've set up several of those bows for friends and I'm always blown away by how those bows shoot.
Well, I mean, I've even felt that with the Whitetail Max is, because last year I was shooting 60 and then jumped up to 70. And even with the Whitetail Max, it doesn't feel like 70. It feels exactly like my 60-pound bow did. So, like I said earlier in the podcast, whatever Bear is doing with these bows, they need to keep doing. Because, I mean, they are just absolutely knocking it out. So what else? I mean, is Bear going to be dropping any traditional bows this year too?
Not sure. If they do, it would probably be around ATA like they did last year. But honestly, I don't know.
Okay. I've wanted to. So what is it like? How long did it take you to get, I guess, consistent shooting trad? Because I tried it once and I was terrible.
Well, not that I'm a off case, but I shoot a crap ton of arrows every day. I mean, I think I'm already like 110 arrows in for today, and it's 3:00. So I shoot a ton of arrows, so I practiced a lot, man. I mean, there would be 300 arrow days pretty regularly there at the beginning, and I invested a lot of time into finding instruction, finding help, finding advice. I flew to Denver twice to shoot with Tom. And so, but it's still, I mean, it was a 6 month, like to where I thought to myself, okay, I can go shoot animals with this. It was a 6 month journey to practice and work hard at it. And it's not something to where, I can pick up my compound and go out and be hitting at 40 in 10 minutes. If I take a week off from the recurve, you can tell, like you can tell that things have struggled. I will say this year, I'm just kind of back on compounds a lot more. Honestly, last year I just had a rough year with the recurve, and I only missed. Well, I actually don't think I ever missed an animal last year, but it was just a lot of encounters where it's like, crap, if I had my compound, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
And so this year I decided I want to kill a crap ton of stuff. And so I'm shooting my compound a lot more this year. I still shoot the recurve just enough to stay in it. But this year I'll primarily be hunting with a compound just so I can kill a bunch of crap. So,
well, and that's my argument. Like I've got a buddy of mine that shoots both, and he's always like, "Oh man, you need to get in a trad." I'm like, dude, you yourself told me that you missed a deer at 7 yards. I'm never going to shoot something that could happen with. Now, granted, a compound, it could still happen, but and I'm not knocking trad. I respect the hell out of those guys because when we did our second annual bow shoot this year, a bunch of trad guys came out, and one of them, who I'm buddies with now, was like, yeah, man, give it a shot. Dude, I couldn't even pull it all the way back. And it was only 65 pounds. Or not, I don't even think it was that. No, it was 35 pounds. It was 35 pounds. And I'm over here just like I couldn't get it. And I got it just back enough where I could get the arrow to go, and it hit like 2 feet high. And I was like, I'm not even aiming at that. How I didn't go up. What happened here? Made no sense. So I respect it a lot. I just, when I'm in the woods, I want to know that, if I have a deer at 10 yards or a deer at 40 yards, I'm going to have the best possible chance to hit it. So, but like I said, who knows? Maybe as I get older and this compound thing just kind of becomes second nature, the trad thing might just be something for fun. I know VPA makes some. I know that Bear's got a ton. I've got a bunch of buddies that have Bear trad bows, and I love them. I mean, they're some of the coolest looking bows I've ever seen. So
Absolutely.
all right, cool, man. Well, I'm excited for the 2025 lineup. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go to my local dealer and shoot some of these new bows. I feel like I'm already shooting the whitetail INT because basically it's just not integrated, which I love. But before we wrap this up, dude, what's your plans for this season? Like, where are you going anywhere else? Are you staying in state? What can we see from you?
I've got a couple. Kansas obviously is kind of first on the hit list, and I tell people all the time too. This is why I only go out west to elk hunt every other year, just because I feel like I get so far behind on whitetail stuff. Like there's no reason on September 26th I shouldn't already be whitetail hunting. Other than the fact that I just invested so much time, effort, and energy into getting ready for that hunt. And making sure I was in the best physical condition. All my equipment was in the best, condition it could be in. So going out west is hard, man, because it just gets you so far behind on whitetails, which is still what I cut my teeth on. It's still what I'm passionate about. Because if I didn't go out west, I would tell you Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas. I would already be on a kind of a deer tour, but I just get so far behind on the Western years. So really probably only Kansas and Oklahoma. And Oklahoma only because I live 16 minutes from the border. I can have 2 more tags in, a matter of 16 minutes. However, Kansas, Oklahoma did double their tag prices this year. So screw me, I guess, Oklahoma.
Jeez.
They were
Really?
350 last year. Now they're 700 for deer tags. So yeah, that makes it rough. But again, it's kind of a no-brainer for me only being 16 minutes from the border. I mean, I can hunt there in an evening and not have to travel or anything. So, but yeah, Kansas, Arkansas for sure, just because that's home. That's where I'm from. So always try and get back and shoot a deer in the Ozarks with my dad. Other than that, man, I got a pretty big hunt January in Texas for Nilgai. I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, that's pretty much what I got going.
Dang, dude, that's awesome. Well, and plus you guys over in Kansas and Oklahoma and all that, y'all got the Giants. So I don't blame you for not leaving.
I don't find them, but
they're there. Just
check out this shed, man. I just found this shed with my boy last week.
Oh, okay.
And this was a deer. This is not a big shed for Kansas by any means.
It's a big shed for Georgia.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And this is actually an Arkansas shed. We have deer very similar to Georgia, probably.
Yeah.
That's a shed from Arkansas. You can just tell. I mean, you can tell the mass. I mean, immediately somebody's like, that's not from the same area as the first one you just showed. So, yeah, that's an Arkansas shed. Yeah, man, I love deer hunting, and I don't care to shoot the big ones. I like to kill stuff, man. I'm a trigger man at heart, so I just shoot stuff, man. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, that I've been struggling with that a little bit this year because, I've always wanted to get a Pope and Young, just one. I'll be happy with just one, and I've been finding in Georgia that it's a lot harder to find them than you think because I've got public land 10 minutes from the house. I've got 2 deer. I would say 2 deer on camera, one on private, one on public that I would guess could hit Pope. But I've been getting so worked up about that it's like I've got my actual target buck's only 5 minutes down the road. And, he's not going to score anything. His frame is huge. If it didn't break his main beam, he'd be even bigger. But it's almost like for some reason I got caught up in that. And I'm trying to get back to like just if I want to shoot it, shoot it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not about the score. I'm not even trying to do it, for the like I have this discussion with my buddies all the time. I'm not even trying to do it to get my name in the books. It's just a personal goal. But here in Georgia, it seems like it's so difficult to find one. So at least where I'm at. So I don't know, man. I'm happy to hear you say that because that kind of helps me out a little bit.
I feel you, man. That's the struggle for us all. And, I just kind of told myself, like, yeah, I always have target bucks. And here's how Dylan Ray works. I do really good at holding out until about November 15th. Yep. And then November 15th hits, and I just think I'm ready to kill something. So then I shoot something. And then, like, my dad's go-to every year is like, dude, you've been sending me pictures all year long of deer bigger than that at 20 yards. And I'm like, yeah, but it was early in the year. Like, so honestly, what I've learned is like, don't wait. Like if you're gonna shoot one, you might as well shoot one of these that you're passing in the early season. Like, but I also just love to hunt too. So, I had a buddy tag out on opening day, and then he was literally like, crap, like because you only get one buck in Kansas. So he was like, crap, like what do I do now? And I'm like, Oklahoma, bro. And he's like, yeah, but that's $700. And I'm like, then don't hunt the rest of the year, I guess.
Yeah, dude, I think I might have God humbled me this year for sure, because that target buck I was telling you about showed up every single day all summer. I mean, I basically had these deer trained. So of course my first sit, I'm thinking I'm gonna kill him. And I remember saying to one of my buddies one time, I was like, I kind of hope I don't. Because as much as I want to kill him first day, I also really enjoy the chase and like learning and strategizing and stuff like that. And that's what it's turned into. I mean, I'm hoping he shows up tomorrow, but there's just as much a chance he does as he doesn't. So I know the feeling. Like I don't think I'd ever want to tag out opening day, because then it's like your buddy, that problem he's having. What do I do now? Just go shoot those all season? Like that's fun, but that of course would be the year that I get like a booner on camera or a giant non-typical and I can't do anything with it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's FOMO, I guess. So,
yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times too. I mean, there's been times where I pass up deer all year long because I know there's a bigger deer in the area, and then never have a chance at that deer, and that's part of the game. I mean, I'll show you this deer I had for 3 years, and I missed a lot of nice deer. Honestly, I missed a new personal best. Like I had a deer that would have been my new biggest personal best deer. And I passed that deer in hopes to shoot another deer. And that's when I was just like, you know what, this game is stupid, because I'm passing deer that would be the biggest deer I've ever shot in hopes at a chance for this other deer. And that's just a really dumb game to start playing.
Yeah.
So I've just decided, man, that, I mean, I want to know the deer that are in the area. I want to know if they're there, but I'm also not going to pass other deer that are studs just to hopefully kill that deer. But I had that deer there for 3 years. I mean, like clockwork. And then somebody killed him, and I passed up a lot of deer to hopefully kill that deer. I mean,
Dylan, I can't fault you for that, dude. I would have passed up a lot of deer for that one too. That's a giant. Oh my God. What? So do you know what he scored? I mean, he's got 140s.
So I would guess him, the last year I had him, I would guess him at 160.
Hold on, let me see the photo again.
Well, I'm looking for the last year I have him.
Okay. I was gonna say I'm terrible at guessing. So
I think I might have scrolled past the last year I had him. Because I know that first picture I showed you was from the second to last year.
Okay. That makes more sense then. That makes a lot more sense.
I'm not seeing it.
Did you delete it because it gave you so much heartbreak?
Honestly, I might have.
I've done that too.
Or honestly, I might be scrolling past it because there's just too many deer pictures.
Yeah.
But I ended up that last year that I was trying to hunt that deer, ended up shooting this deer the night before Thanksgiving. So that was, that deer come out, and I'm like, man, that's a nice deer. I'm not going to pass this deer up to hopefully kill this other deer.
Well, see, you guys have it different than we do because we have 2 bucks. That's insane. Say something real quick so the people watching can see him.
Look at this deer.
God, so that's 160s right there.
Right here he's probably, I'd say mid 150s to 160.
Unbelievable. That is dude. I don't know if I could hold it together with a buck like that in front of me. I honestly don't. I shake when I see a fawn. Like the fact I'm able to have any deer on the wall right now is a miracle. A buck
and
like
this is one of those deer that I was sitting in the stand where that buck showed up, and this deer was there, and once he turns his head, you can kind of see. And there's no way I should have passed this deer. I mean,
nope.
Looking back, I mean, and it's just so again, I played that game for a few years, and now it's like, okay, I want to know that there's big deer in the area, but I'm also not going to give up other nice deer in hopes to maybe turn one up,
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where
a 130 is still a really big deer.
I might have found his last year. I might have found the last year pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. And they're horrible because I took a picture of a picture. But he created some junk on the sides.
Dude.
So right here, I'm going to put him at 165.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
By the way, is that a Fred Bear camo phone case?
Yeah, it is.
Nice. And it's got the logo. I love that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, dude, that deer like that just, because I've got buddies that, I've got one, he somehow is able to get on, 140s, 150s, 160s all the time. And I'm just like, how do you do this? And, he likes to stir the pot a bit. So he's like, look, man, you just got to know the right people. He's like, you'll meet them one day. I'm like, oh, thanks. It's like, you can't introduce me to them. You can't help me out a little bit. Like, I get it. I don't like handouts, but whatever, man.
You can't help a brother out.
Yeah, I was like, come on, dude. My biggest deer is a 102. You can't even get me on a 120. But
yeah, no kidding.
It is what it is. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on and telling us about the 2025 lineup. This episode was a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see what Bear's new bows do for everybody. And I know a couple buddies that are probably going to pick some up because they're wanting to upgrade. Before we sign off of here, can you do a little shameless plug for all you got going on, the podcast, Instagram, website, all of that?
Yeah, man, Bear Archery Podcast. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, that's exactly what it's called, the Bear Archery Podcast. It's on Bear's YouTube, it's on Carbon TV, it's on Waypoint TV, it's on all the podcast channels. My social media on TikTok and on Instagram is Typical Sportsman, and then the website is just typicalsportsman.com. So go check it out.
Awesome, dude. Well, Dylan, thanks for coming on, bro. Thanks for telling us about the new lineup, and good luck this season, man. I need you to send me videos or photos or whatever when you get one of those deer down.
All right, sounds good, man.
Awesome, buddy.